All right, hey, what's going on, buddy? My name's David, a Panda, whatever you know me by. Just want to do a quick little video. This one's gonna be pretty rough. It's about a ward stacking, spider stacking, poison multi-strike build. We're using Glorious Madness. It's a lot of different things, and so I just wanted to put it out there just in case somebody, maybe is bored, or maybe for my own reference later in the future. Somebody might click on this though and be like, hey, that's pretty cool, sounds pretty cool, maybe I can steal it, put some improvements towards it, yada yada, right? To give you the quick gist and rundown, we are using a volatile Vol Orb Bone Meld, which says 6% increased defenses per minion from your non-Vol skills. Turns out you get a lot of spiders. They, pretty simple stuff. You equip Arcari's Fang when you get a kill, or when one of your proxies get a dot kill, like Poison or Ignite or something like that. You'll be given the kill just by the way PoE works. So we just get a bunch of spiders. We use Dark Monarch and a Congregation support inside the Arcali's Fang. We end up with about 55 spiders, I think, give or take. I think you can go up to like 58 if you have like a level 4 congregation. I'm just a bit lazy and a teeny bit broke. But yeah, that's the whole idea. It with increased defenses, you can scale armor evasion, ES, but most importantly, ward. This is one of the only ways you can actually scale ward. And so, Yinda stand, we get a bunch of ward from our chest. This Yinda stand is a 58%. 60% is how it normally is, with a defense modifier on a clean Yindas. So that cost me 70 divs. This cost me only like 30 divs, to get a 58%, which that's not too much difference. I don't really care, right? We're also using the new Timeless Jewel, Heroic Tragedy. These can end up being really expensive, especially because a lot of people are using Regenerative Runes, which is a node that gives you flash charges. You leverage that with something like a Pathfinder or a Tides of Time or whatever else can get you flash charges, and you use an Iron Flask, right? That's how people usually do it. But on this build, I decided to go with a bunch of block nodes, right? It's from a random Reddit comment I read. Hopefully I can put everything in the description. But basically, we're on Gladiator, who has Lucky Block, right? And we're using Azadi's crest. So with triple rolls on, instead of like lucky meaning like the best of two rolls, it's now a best of three rolls. So now if you have lucky block on with capped block from a versatile command, we have a around 95% chance to block. And all these nodes give us 10% chance to restore war when we block. I have about 50, I think. One, two, three, four, a 5. So yeah, I have 50% chance to restore ward when I block at a 95% chance to block. That's pretty good. Um, this cost me like literally 2 divs to get. Like this was a real cheap buy, and it's probably not too hard to get better ones. Like I do have some other nodes here. I have another 10% here. I do think there's another one somewhere in here. This one, yeah, we could get up to 70%, but I'm just not going for it. I think 50 is more than enough. Um, so we have a great way to restore ward, and why do I care about restoring ward? Well, we're using Celestial Mathematics. It says while you have Unbroken Ward, your next attack breaks your ward to gain added damage equal to 25% of ward. Now, right now, I don't have any spiders up, so I'm only at 15k ward. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be around 30k ward. So whatever 25% of 30k is, I think that's like 7,500. That's 7,500 flat added cold damage to your attack, right? Now, raid spiders give you a bunch of stats as well. So let me hover over here. Each spider gives you 2% attack speed and 50% increased damage with poison. So with 50 spiders, that's a lot of increased damage with poison. That's a lot of attack speed. The only issue is when it comes to poison, you want to use physical chaos damage, right? Those are the damage types that originally like inflict poison naturally. That's the word, naturally. But we have a bunch of added cold damage, so you have the option of, going over here and converting all your cold damage to chaos using one of those Foulborn Green Nightmare Jewels. But instead, I'm gone ahead and I'm using Embrace Madness, which is like a Glorious Madness. All damage inflicts poison. This is a double whammy, right? Not only does it say all damage inflicts poison, meaning that cold damage will now count for the poison damage scaling. Not the actual damage from the poison, but the damage that the poison uses to calculate itself. It's now going to consider cold as a legitimate uh, source. But it also says inflicts, as opposed to all damage can poison from like a pneumatic dagger or that one assassin node from the rework. So if all damage inflicts poison, I don't have to care about poison chance or anything, right? I can just hit somebody, and no matter what damage I'm doing, no matter what damage type I'm doing, uh, as long as I hit the enemy, it's gonna poison them, right? Which is sick. And then, yeah, enemies you kill while affected by Glorious Madness have a chance to explode, so this gives us a little bit of clear for our troubles. The only issue is that Glorious Madness, when I activate it here, it afflicts us with a bunch of negative stats, negative stacks of stats, which continually scale over time. We scale a little bit of debuff expiry rate so that we can get out of those stacks, because once these stack up to like you can see here, we have 5 slow stacks. 9 slow stacks feels like complete dog shit. So we're stacking a lot of that where we can. I'm taking the duration mastery here. I'm using this ruin for debuffs expire faster. Using a Watcher's Eye with the haste debuff expiring faster. I'm using frantic aspect. We're just doing that. I'm currently a little over 134% expiry rate. Ideally, you want to be around 234, 237, but that's gonna take at least what's that chest called? A stasis prison or a warped timepiece or something, and I just don't have the room for that. So we're at around 134%, and you can just scour the POB if you want any more information on that. But yeah, that's basically what we're doing. That's the whole joke with the build. I'm using Molten Strike lastly to do my actual damage. The reason this is great, and also why I have Nimmies, is because this hits a lot of times, right? Like this fires 8 projectiles at the moment, or sorry, 9 projectiles. So if you imagine, and then those projectiles return back to you, so that's gonna hit around 18 times, like on a good day, and we're using the Boon of the River. I'm pretty sure nobody clicks this node. Like most people who click this node want to hit like 40 times in a second with one attack. Um, but because we're using like almost like on purpose, like on a tornado shot maybe, but since I'm using Molten Strike, this makes our life way easier because now we have a second way to restore our ward. So not only are we restoring it on block, but also we're restoring it on hit most of the time. So this kind of double dipping allows us to kind of ensure that our ward's always up to use. And I'm also using Enhanced Starlight so that damage taken by a passes ward if the hit deals less than 50% of ward. Again, if we have 30k ward, I think it's like what, around 4k damage, 5k damage maybe, which goes through ward so that we can use ward as our offense. Because it would be kind of awkward to have your ward get taken up by a hit when you're trying to hit the enemy to kill it, right? Like that just seemed a bit awkward to me. Um, Enhanced Starlight makes things way easier, and we get a lot of ward from it. So, yeah. And you're probably wondering, like, okay, well then, is this really enough? 3k life, dude. 400 ES. Well, the ES will go up to about 1,000 once we get our spiders going. We do have, great resistances, and again, 95% chance to block and immunity to all ailments thanks to purity of elements, or most ailments, I should say. And we also have Lucky Suppress. You might remember that, like I said earlier, 3 rolls for anything that says Lucky. So, chance to suppress spell damage is Lucky. We have about 83%, which is where you want to be anyways for the normal double roll Lucky. So this turns into about 99% chance spell suppression. Basically everything just lines up for us, and once we get our spiders going, we're gonna have about 60% PDR with about 10k armor, I think, around there. So we don't need ward to save our lives. That's what I'm trying to say. Obviously we'll still die here and there. Dots could be kind of rude as well, but that's basically the entirety of the build. I was using a not a life flask. What's it called? The writing jar flask, just to get a few kills. But the real problem is that these guys get destroyed when they're hit. So if you have a spider hit it, it will just steal the kill. But it is great if you're bossing, for example. You can get your first 20, excuse me, 20 spiders from that. So yeah, I know that was a lot of information, but just to kind of finish up on what I'm gonna be saying, we're using pacifism support. I'm pretty sure nobody's really equipped these. Like, if you're equipping this, if you see somebody equipping this on PoE Ninja, you know they're a psycho like me, right? But basically, this new support says that hits from skills cannot kill enemies. What that means for our spiders is that our spiders cannot directly kill an enemy, but spiders all use Viper Strike of the Mamba. I don't know if it says that on here. Oh, it does. It says attacks with Viper Strike, or it might not be of the Mamba, but it attacks our enemies Viper Strike. So they have an innate chance to poison, right? So if they hit an enemy and they accidentally, I'm going to say, poison them, at the very least, those kills will be given to us because we're the minion owners, and that's the way PoE works, right? If your minions get a poison kill, you get the kill because it would be a nightmare otherwise, right? Like, imagine if the minion despawned, or if your minion was, changed his stats or something. It would just be weird. So, to make the game easier, well, for the back end of the game be easier, the devs decided to make it that way. So, we're using pacifism support, and we have Withering Touch in there, just so that if we have 50 spiders, I mean, dude, you're pretty much gonna have permanent wither stacks on anything that survives your your Nimbie's Molten Strike Giga Poison. But yeah, that's hopefully I covered everything. We do have a cast on ward break support. This is really expensive for obvious reasons. It has so much CDR rate that our steel skin is basically always up, because we're always attacking, so we're always breaking our ward, triggering steel skin, breaking our ward, triggering steel skin. You don't need this. You can just go with automation or something if you're like you don't have to cash for it. And we are using Hexpack support as the last new exceptional support. This just makes it so that anybody you curse cannot deal critical strikes, which is pretty sweet. And it saves us a skill point on the Poison Mastery. One last thing I want to mention. If you're looking at our resistances, you're like, why does he have so much resistances? It's because Bone Melt gives us -2 res per minion. So if we have 50 minions, that's -100 to all res. This doesn't say elemental res, it says all res. So that includes chaos res, right? I'm using a Lion Meaning for that. Obviously, if you have the balls, or if you manage to somehow make your way to CI, for example, you could just go with, a chaos damage Lion Meaning. That will make your life easier. But that's just what I've gone and done here. Oh, I also have Unwavering Stance allocated. You might not want this. Like, I know some, because if you take this off, you'll end up with like, I think 16k evasion, which is a lot. If you would rather evade stuff, that's cool. I just think it's a bit awkward. We're playing a block build and we're evading stuff, so that's why I took Unwavering Stance. And accuracy. Lastly, I have a Worthy Foe. Yeah, Worthy Foe Forbidden Flesh and Flame. This is from my last, or my second, my character, 2 characters ago. I was doing a Cyclone Slayer and I was stealing this, so it's probably a bit expensive now. I'm not sure, but you can just scale accuracy. Take out some passives. Open up a suffix or 2. I know we're kind of suffix starved, especially because we need 200 int, 224 int for this fucking Dark Monarchs. But you can just take some accuracy clusters. Like, instead of this multi-shot cluster, you can just take some accuracy, mastery here or there, and you'll do just fine. But yeah, we're using that because that makes my life way easier. I'll have to scale accuracy. And our Anoint is adjacent to Animosity. This is really good damage because Molten Shell, just hits so close to where it starts. If you don't want that, take Sovereignty, open up some mana reservation, whatever floats your boat. But okay, I think that's more than enough yapping. Let me do a quick map. Hopefully it's not too bad. I've been doing mostly Mesa, so let me just do a city square for the video. And this should be a pretty easy map. This is like a 6-mod map. If it kills me, it's whatever. Again, this is my end of league character, so I'm not really too particular about it. Put it that way. Oh, there we go. Let me get my thing up here real quick. There we go. Hopefully I'll die like that again, but you never know. But yeah, this has been pretty fun, and once you get going, it's again pretty chill. So I have really no complaints. And this is the first time I've really played Molten Strike. I know a lot of people play armor stackers and a lot of shit like that, but this is sick. I saw Matho was doing a Reliquarian, I think, budget armor stacker, and I was like, that's sick. You don't really think of, armor stackers as budget, but he made it work, and he did with like a 2-class Mage Blood. That's always something I think is sick. 2-class Mage Blood. Like, if you see somebody on PoE Ninja with a with a 2-class Mage Blood, you know that guy's cooking something, bro. Or he just has a lot of unique class, who knows. But yeah, as you can see, once I get going, this build's pretty chill. And if you're not a fan of the enhanced Starlight node, just get rid of it. Take the Wood Shatter one instead. The great thing about Gladiator is that the 2 shield nodes are so good that he can afford to put 2 points into a, what's it called? A Bloodline Ascendancy. You can also see that while casually mapping, your spiders will just kill shit. So that's why passive support is so great, because it allows you to get credit for those kills. Corruption Chamber on the left. I do want to quickly say here that if you look at the POB, it shows that you're in dot cap, but that's because not Enhanced Starlight, that's Celestial Mathematics doesn't exactly work just yet, so I've just added the flat damage as a modifier. Oh, I checked that again. As a custom modifier. Obviously, not all of your attacks are going to be with the flat damage because you're breaking your ward every time you do it. So the damage is inaccurate. But I can tell you firsthand that it does work. Like, if you have you have spiders up and you're hitting, I think at King of the Mist, Shaper, all that stuff, and if you do get all the balls hitting, it will do a significant amount of damage. It's not incredibly exaggerated, but it is exaggerated still. So definitely have to put that disclaimer out there. The nice thing about taking let me see if I can pull it up. The nice thing about taking this left side of the duration cluster is that we get increased skill duration, which means our spiders last 40 seconds. Originally, I took the right side because that also gives, like, I think 15% expiry. But it made my spiders last like 20 seconds, dude, and that was just not fun. It was like, I felt like I was racing against my spiders, so... Oh, we're using Temporal Rift, by the way, because that also gives expiry rate when you link it up with Enhance. I'm not too big of a fan of the Echo ult, but sometimes it is really nice, especially if we're doing temples and I can just almost like TP back to the start. It's actually pretty helpful in temples. If you've been following my channel at all, if this isn't your first time hearing my grating voice, you'll know that I do love my temples. That Soul Eater guy just got destroyed. Like, this build's sick. I don't have an Iron Flask yet, mainly because, again, I'm lazy. But you could definitely get an Iron Flask on this build and get even more wood if you really wanted to. Boom. Tyrare just dead. I am using only Flame Dash in this build, as it turns out that Shield Charge, I almost forgot, isn't an attack. So you don't want to burn your ward on Shield Charge, right? So we're using Flame Dash. linked with second wind. Oh, this is one of those special rituals. I'm not even gonna stop for the ritual, dude. Sorry, guys. I am using this elixir of the Unbroken Circle, which burns all your endurance charges, but gives you endurance charges on effect. It's kind of lame, but I'm not complaining about endurance charges, you know what I mean? Everybody? You know what? Maybe we will do the ritual. Getting all the reservation and int for this build was a complete pain in the ass. If you are going to copy this build, I recommend you make sure that you have that unlock. Alright, I'm going to call it there. Hopefully that was enough of a quick little yap for you to at least know that this build works and that it doesn't have to be, you know, like mirror tier ward stacking. You can get a pretty fun ward stacker up for pretty much nothing. So yeah, hopefully somebody out there finds this helpful, finds this interesting. Otherwise, or even if you, even if you do like it, hope you have a good day and see you next time.